All right, folks, welcome back into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. And Carl, we survived.
We made it. We did it, man. We did it. My body was failing me towards the end, but pushed through, found a way, do it for the kids. No, but all serious though, I do want to give a shout out to the staff at Blue Cross Arena. They did a phenomenal job, making things like a well-oiled machine, telling people where to go so they're not lost, all that good stuff. I enjoyed everything about it. It made my long day about as seamless as it could possibly go. I want to give them their kudos because they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, the boys' games finally back at Blue Cross Arena. The girls put on quite a show at Rush-Henrietta. And if you guys could have seen Carl, get back to the office at about 11:03 for our 11:15 show, just with how late it was. And B, how much this man was just begging for an icy hot. He seemed like, Shaquille O'Neal could have casted him a commercial with just how much his back was aching him from shooting all those games.
Look, I didn't play double, triple overtime football games. I didn't, did a lot of stuff. I don't know if my back has felt like that ever in my life. It was tough. But you know what? Victor Fairport, that was when the back started to give out a little bit. But that game gave me enough juice. It was a phenomenal game in that regard. Shout out for them for giving me that extra push because I was so close to putting down this camera and be like, you know what? I'm headed back to the station and I'm just put on TV whatever I got. It is what it is. But the back was definitely failing me for sure.
Yeah, so as we advance here to the Far West Regionals, once again, we bring on a great guest who provided a ton of insight. Tom Prince from WNYathletics.com. We're to get that interview for you shortly. This is a guy that has covered all of these games throughout the season. He'll be covering the girls' games this weekend. So a lot of great insight. If you are going to go to any of these games, if you just want to get caught up on what you can expect to see this weekend, this is your one-stop shop for insight. I suggest you stick around. But first, before we get to that, just a kind of a debrief from this great weekend of action. As we mentioned, all the games at Blue Cross, at RH, Carl, you were at Blue Cross Arena. Just kind of your one big maybe takeaway from the boys' slate as we advance here to the Far West Regionals.
About how competitive the games were. I mean, outside of Avoca Prattsburgh, who still pulled away in the late third quarter. It wasn't like they were dominating the entire way, but all of these games were competitive into the fourth quarter, which kind of helped out me a little bit. So I'm not shooting the first half games and all that other good type of stuff. But these games, these teams, we got the two best teams in a majority of these brackets, all the way up from Fairport, who was down early, right? They were down, I believe, 15 in the first quarter, stormed all the way back to make that competitive into the fourth, whether it was Irondequoit and Athena linking up for the fourth time. And Irondequoit taking it to them. That was just the overall thing for me. Just I'm happy if I was going to be there for as long as I was, that the games were good and they lived up to the billing and then some.
Yeah, we had expected that. There weren't many real, clear-cut favorites in Section 5 on the boys' side. And another good thing is that these games were all very close. None of them went to overtime, Carr.
Woo, because look, like AJ told you, I got back at 11:03. Any of those games went to OT. 11:03 turns to 11:09, 11:10, 11. Now CJ's not getting on air, so it's like, So I want to thank the basketball gods for getting all those games done in regulation.
Yeah, then I got to, call play-by-play for 13 straight highlights. Which, if you saw what I did not last week but 2 weeks ago, just doing 10 or 11 by yourself gets a little tiring. So I appreciate the boys for not going to overtime there. And over the girls' side, over there at Rush-Henrietta, once again, another great slate of competitive games. And I just want to talk about the AA and the A games. You had the stars in those games. They shine bright in Class A. It was Maya Herman. Really, I think the best I've seen Maya Herman play so far in terms of putting the team on her back. She has done this all season long, but she was hitting the shots when it mattered most. End of the third quarter, she had a big and one in the fourth. She was leading some lockdown defense where, they played a Sutherland team that got close at times, but never really threatened. And I think that was in large part due to her senior leadership. And then, of course, on the AA girls side, Schroeder taking down Penfield, winning that tremendously difficult AA bracket, which might turn out to be, we could go at the end of this thing, kind of like we did last year, where the Section 5 tournament might have been just as good, if not better, than the state tournament. And what really impressed me in that game was Mariah Watkins, of course, did some really great things, but I think she might have played like a B- game, like a B game. It was really some supporting cast that got it done there. Addison Morgan hit some clutch 3-pointers all throughout the game. When they needed somebody to, hit open shots as they swung it around, she was getting it done. And obviously when you have a team like Penfield, a well-coached team, a team that can throw a lot of players at a star like Mariah Watkins, it's reasonable to expect that she might not be able to put up, 32 points or whatever. The other players are going to have to get involved. And she certainly did that as Schroeder won their first sectional title since a very long time, 1976 for the Warriors there.
That's a theme that I've seen with the Warriors over the past month or so. I mean, last year and even the beginning of this year, you saw them and it was like, oh, the Mariah Watkins show. How many points she get tonight? 30, 40. Uh-oh, what's she doing? And the last couple times I saw them, she's obviously played great. But some of the others, Sarah Ferruzer, Ava Gallup, obviously her little sister Bria, also a phenomenal player in her own right. But the Schroeder rounding out the team at the right time of year, Addison Morgan, like you just said, this is a team that's much more than just Mariah Watkins.
Yeah, because she's not, that was something we talked about last year, is that she wasn't exactly the player, bringing it up every single time, having the ball in her hands 24/7. How would they change that? How would they evolve to that? Well, they've just got a ton of players who can get it done in addition to her, and a team that graduates no players from this year. That is going to be a tough team, A, going forward, and B, next year as well. Speaking of going forward, it is time to get to the Far West Regionals. We've got a great slate of games. Boys games are going to be played at Rush-Henrietta and at Gates Chili. The girls over at Buffalo State College. And as we mentioned before, we've got a special guest coming into the program to preview all those games, Tom Prince from WNYathletics.com. A great interview. Let's bring that to you right now. And as we mentioned, it's now time to bring in Tom Prince from WNYathletics.com, broadcasting all the games this weekend over at the Far West Regional. He's been covering all the games throughout the year, throughout the sectional playoffs. So we got a real pro to help break down these teams, give our Section 5 listeners a preview of what we're going to get a taste of this weekend. Tom, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
No, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming on our show. We'll get right into it. We got a great weekend of slate, a great slate of games coming up this weekend. We're going to start out in Buffalo at Buffalo State College University, actually now it is, for the games. Then we'll work our way down. We'll go back and forth between the girls and the boys. And we're going to start with what might end up being one of, if not the biggest games on the weekend. Girls AA. You've got Schroeder from here in Section 5 going up against Lancaster. Schroeder 4th in the state, Lancaster 5th in the state. And when you look at the teams in the state rankings in NISFA, the teams that will be eligible to win the state championship, it is Schroeder 1st in the rankings. It is Lancaster 2nd in the rankings. So this could be the state championship game. Tom, just Lancaster, obviously, I'm looking at some of their stats. They have a couple of great players. They have a lot of talent. Just kind of take me through how Lancaster was able to get there, kind of what makes them tick this year.
Madison Francis, first of all, is where we're going to begin this conversation with. She legitimately may be the best female right now in New York State when you see what she's capable of doing. She is capable of playing all 5 positions on the court. She will play guard. She'll also play big down low. She's a 6-footer. Just to give you an example of how good she really is, for her 1,000 point, she tried dunking and just missed getting that 1,000 point via the dunk. Okay. She ends up putting it back from the dunk miss, puts it back in and gets her 1,000 point. She is the real deal. She will be going to a major college, just like we've been talking about some of the big players that have come out of Western New York as of late, especially in basketball. She is going to absolutely follow suit. Now, she has got a nice cast right with her that's going to be able to do just as successful. At the sectional championships, the MVP was actually given to Rachel Kamrowski of Lancaster. She can shoot the 3. You give her a wide open, you give her the opportunity to shoot, and if you just try to double team Madison Francis, watch out. Rachel will beat you with the long ball out there from 3-point land. And they've also got some other players that are going to be very pivotal to a success. Brooke Bowers, another one who's going to have an impact on this team. And she didn't play in the sectional championships. We do need to find out whether whether she was injured or there was something wrong. But Casey Mahoney is another big player with this team because she can play down low, take care of the rebounding, take care of some of the stuff that needs to get done so that you've got Francis to be able to play at the top of the key and do various things at guard.
Now, Lancaster has played some Section 5 competition this season. They beat Bishop Kearney by 8, a very impressive win. They did lose to Fairport by 19 earlier this season. Now, as you said, Francis kind of runs the show. I've got that she has over 20 Division I offers right now. You mentioned that she can play all 5 positions on the court. What is kind of her bread and butter? What is she looking to do? And what do you think Schroeder is going to try and do to take her away this Saturday?
Well, she can run the court. Like you're talking about a 6-footer that runs the court like a guard, right? So when you see that now, understand is at the college level, we see that constantly, but we don't see that here in the high school level. So you're talking about somebody who will absolutely run the floor with the best of them and then be able to go down low, block your shot, and do all the things that needs to get done. She can handle the ball. She can absolutely shoot from everywhere in the court. And then she plays big down low. So you've got to be able to play all those positions along with her.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see her play. Her going up against Mariah Watkins, who might not have quite the offer list that she is, but she's going to be playing at a great Division I school. I'm really looking forward to seeing her play this weekend.
Yeah, now listen, the matchups are fun, right? This is what it's all about. This isn't like any team that shouldn't be here or can't play is playing in this, right? You've deserved your opportunity to get this far, and we're going to see great matchups along the way.
Yeah, I'm jealous you guys got that game out there in Buffalo. But back to Rochester this Saturday, 7:30 at Rush-Henrietta High School. We have a matchup in Class AA boys. Victor up against Niagara Falls. Victor, the 18th team in the state with 21-2 record, also sharing the same record. Niagara Falls, 9th in the state. They were the 3 seed in their classification, upset Jamestown in the sectional title game. Jamestown was the favorite going in. What about Niagara stood out during the sectional title run for them to come out on top?
So, Carl, I'm going to actually say is seeds in this are very different. And I say that because how Western New York does their seeds comes because of their conference play. And because Niagara Falls plays in what's called the Niagara Frontier League, they've got B teams in there, A teams in there, and AA teams in there. So the problem is when they beat a B team, they only get what's considered 4 points for a win or 3 points for a win. So they've got the resume and easily did have enough to be a number 1 seed, but because of the conference they played in, so they're not traveling all over God's creation, right? That's the reason they become a 3 seed in there. Really was because of their conference play. This is a team that legitimately is one of the top teams in Western New York. There's no doubt about it. You're going to see is they're going to be led by James Robinson. This is the man. In fact, if you haven't seen it, take a look at our social media pages. This kid put a dunk down that I haven't seen in the high school ranks that I haven't seen in a while. He comes down the middle of that lane and just bam! It was something that really got everyone excited. It was unbelievable to watch. That game against Jamestown, though, he no doubt was the MVP of that game. Put Niagara Falls on his shoulders. It was a game that was just very ridden with tons of fouls. It was a very slow-paced game, and really Robinson picked up his game to another level to be able to get that win over Jamestown.
Earlier this week, I did a story on Victor, the team who will take on Niagara Falls, and speaking to the head coach, he said they have their hands full against Niagara. And watching the Blue Devils this year, they play a ton of different styles. You know, they can play fast with you. They can slow it down. They have the size and the speed and the shooters to be able to do that. But they did say that Niagara can get up and down the floor, and they are very athletic. Just talk about the problems that their style of play poses for their opponents.
So great point, because they will like to play what I call a typical AAU style type game, right? Where they're going to full court press you the entire game, and it will be very fast paced back and forth. You better be able to keep up with their pace. Take a look when you look at the scoring, right? 4 guys in double digits right there when you're talking about the scoring that's out there. So you know Robinson's going to be big, but you don't know who's going to be the other guy that's going to be able to step up and be there. Rollins, Etzel, right? Those are two big names you better know when it comes to Niagara Falls. And then Devon Wade not only can do it with the points, but he's also going to be big, a guy to be able to help out with the defense side of the ball. And then they've got two guys with the last name Strong that you see on there that are also big defensive players and big guys that will help this Niagara Falls team get to what they need to do.
Yeah, AA boys is a class where we were kind of waiting for a contender to emerge. It's going to be Victor. We will see how far they can go starting this Saturday. Moving back over to the girls' side of things, we go to Class A, 7 o'clock at Buffalo State University. Number 6 in the state, Canandaigua, taking on number 10, Hamburg. Now, these two teams actually played against each other in the regular season. Not very often. Certainly in basketball, we get to see this very often in the regionals. It was, in fact, Canandaigua coming away with a 57-47 win. Hamburg also played Penfield earlier this season. They lost by 18 points. However, it does seem like Hamburg might be peaking at the right time because they just had a very impressive win in the crossover game to get to the Far West Regionals.
I called the game last night. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Clara Strack was unbelievable. Clara Strack is off to Virginia Tech, is where she's going to be playing her career from here on in. And she, you know, we did an interview at halftime with Coach Hamburg, and she literally told us at halftime that Clara was texting all the girls during the week, was telling everybody you can believe, telling everybody how we're going to do this, telling everybody it can be done. And then not only did she do it, but she did it by example out on the court. For those of you who don't know, they played Williamsville South and Gretchen Dolan. And Gretchen Dolan is the real deal. I mean, when you're talking about a player in the state averaging 40 points a game, still got 36 in this one. But Clara was just unbelievable down low. When you actually saw the ball get in her hands, she demanded it, she got it, and when she was down in the blocks in the paint, watch out. The ball was going in. If it wasn't going in, she was getting to the line to make things happen. And her supporting cast came up huge in this game against Will South. Actually, we heard that Clara wasn't feeling well in the sectional championships, not the crossover game that we're talking about against Will South. And actually, the player of the game that was named in the sectional championships was Leah Koo, who actually will play in this game and made a huge impact. She will be you'll see her at the guard. You'll see her be able to shoot from the outside. She can easily drive the lane and do things also to be able to help this team out. Maddie Hoke is another one that you better watch out for. She can really help out this team. What will be a key is they actually, Megan Kruska, one of the players on the Hamburg team who they've relied on, unfortunately will be out. She's actually gotten injured. She's on crutches.
Yeah, that's definitely a bummer to hear. But I just want to point out for our listeners, in case that stat got blown over, they beat Gretchen Dolan, who is averaging 40 points per game in Class A girls basketball, which is really impressive. She's going to Illinois. And I believe, if I saw this correctly, they had lost to Will South twice earlier in the regular season. So is there something in particular you've seen from this team that has caused them to peak at the right time, or are they just kind of naturally progressing through the year and have kind of found their form late?
No, this was Clara Strack. this was her taking on even another dimension to her game, right? Her and Gretchen were going one-on-one almost the entire game. But you saw Clara was determined in this game. And she really, it was just like she would get to the point when she would get to the top of the cape, and I'd watch her kick it into a second gear to get down into the blocks as fast as she could, so she could take that spot down in the box and demand the ball and go turn around in. She was in position all night long to make a basket.
Yeah,
and think about it, you're doing that against another Division I commit. Sorry.
No. Yeah, and she's going to be going up against Maya Herman, who has the attitude, has the skill. I think that should be a really good one-on-one matchup in the Class A girls side, Carl.
Yeah, once again, another game that I don't want to use the wrong word. Just frustrated you guys get to see that, and I don't. But to the boys' side, Irondequoit taking on Amherst. Amherst 13th in the state, Irondequoit 18th. I'm looking at Amherst roster, and there is size up and down for for high school hoops, 6'3", 6'3", 6'4", 6'4", that has to pose problems for opponents at that level where, length is king.
So you want to know the funny part? This is small compared to last year.
That's a lot.
Last year, they had 2 6'8" guys and a 6'5" kid last year that went on to the semifinals, and they all graduated to graduation. So they're really retooling in a sense that's out here to be able to get to this point. Their leading scorer, which you'll see on there, we're not sure if he's going to be playing, which is Jordan Alexander. And they haven't played with him on this stretch run that they've gotten in. This team will never give up. They really won't. They're actually probably best known at this point for the zone. And it's very opposite to the zone that we would kid around with Syracuse, right? When you think about a zone in Syracuse, you think about the guys down in the blocks and the wingspan that comes out there, because that's where it becomes very difficult to penetrate in the paint. These guys are the opposite, where the top of the key is just unbelievably fast to the ball. And then what they do is they'll actually trap very well to be able to get the steals they needed, and then it's fast break time after that. So it's a very different zone than what we would normally think about, but a very effective zone. And if they go to full court presses or different things that you'll see, they will go man to man. The defense is the key to this team, and they're led by Nick Moore, the point guard right there. He's been the point guard now for multiple years and the top point guard in Western New York.
A 6'3" point guard ain't nothing to play around with. I'm kind of still baffled that I see that. Sure, I'll be seeing him on my TV screens in a few years. 6'3" point guard.
And guess what? He's such a good kid. He's been such a leader, and he is that point guard that will score when needed, but he really is about getting his entire team into the mix of things there. And then the other guard, Josh Bugera, is a kid you're going to watch. He can shoot from all over the place. He's a great shooter and will be a big impact in this game. And the guy who came up big in the crossover game was Antonio Andrews, who is going to be their center, the sophomore who's at 6'4", listed at 6'4". McKinley, the team they played to get here, huge down low. They've got big players down low, and Andrews comes up big in this game down low. Think about this. How many teams do you know that get to a championship game? Amherst held them to 14 points in the second half to just show you how good that defense really is.
It'll be a fun matchup for sure, because I saw Irondequoit in their sectional title game against one of the better teams here in Athena, and they have one of the best guards here in section 5 with Ryan Heath. So it'll be interesting to see how he maneuvers the zone, especially at the top of it. And they have some shooters on the outside as well. So that'll be a styles make fights type of matchup. But what I want to ask you before we go to the next classification, it appears as if this team kind of has like a next man up mentality. Nick Moore only had 4 points in that crossover game. You're saying they were without Jordan Alexander, who was their leading scorer. But like, there's still other guys who are in double figures. I mean, that speaks, volumes to the type of depth they have.
Oh, 100%. That's why I was telling you a little bit about Josh Bugera and what Antonio Andrews did. Those were the guys who really stepped up big. The other guard who's really good is Amir Dunn. You're going to hear is the other point guard who will kind of share the point guard mentality with Nick Moore. You'll see Nick Moore go to shooting guard. You'll see Amir Dunn bring the ball up. Dunn, a very, very good player, and can easily, when needed to, really get on the scoreboard and do various things, because he does a very good job of getting into the paint, getting to the glass, and making some easy shots for himself.
Heading back over to the girls' side of things, we've got our first matchup on the girls' side of Buffalo State University, where the Section 6 team will be the favorite, at least in the New York State rankings. You've got number 4 Depew taking on number 6 Waterloo. Depew 23-2 on the season. Their only losses this year, 2 AA foes, one of which was Lancaster early on in the season. And obviously, I look at this team, and Kaylee Kristoff really jumps off the page. What has made her click this season? What has made Depew so good this campaign?
You technically could say you've got 2 Division I players on this team. Mia Vanelli is a Division I commit to play softball. She will be playing softball at Stony Brook is where she's going to be going to. And then you've also got right now Kaylee Kristoff, who is off to the University of Binghamton is where she's off to. And she is going to be the point guard. You could see she has really been great from the point guard position. She is a distributor. She sees the ball well. She can really find open spots on the floor to really be able to get her to do some things she needs to do.
Now, the one thing with Waterloo, especially on this sectional playoff run, this is a Tigers team that made it all the way to the state championship game last year. Their experience has really kind of powered them against some, less weathered challengers. Kind of take me through the Depew, their pedigree, whether or not you think, they can run with a really experienced Waterloo team.
Yeah, this team's deep. We got a chance to see Naima Blair actually be one of the top players, this defensive players. This thing, she got a chance to take on. We've got a player that we actually saw from Southwestern who can just shoot. Reese Beaver, unbelievable what she did in inside scoring. And in the second half, Blair was actually tasked to take on her one-on-one and really did what she did from a defensive standpoint was unbelievable. So you had her to the defense standpoint with Kristoff, with Vanelli, right? And then the shooting that kind of come from the outside from some of the other players that are out here. This Depew team is stacked and can beat you so many ways, whether it's the inside with Vanelli. Vanelli can also shoot from anywhere. And then you add what Kristoff can do just from a point guard standpoint, and to be able to shoot from the outside is just unbelievable.
Yeah, Waterloo runs of 25-0 in the sectional championship game. I believe it was 17-0 in the crossover game against some two really good teams. So Depew certainly will have their hands full on Saturday, Carl.
Yeah, heading back to the boys slate, Class B with Newark, 9th in the state, taking on Fredonia, who's 13th. First thing that I noticed about this matchup, Fredonia's record at 19-7. 7 losses to be here this time of year is you're gonna have to rattle me and riddle me a little bit on how a team with 7 losses makes it this time of year. And I know you said seeding doesn't matter, but to add some context to that record, they were the 10th seed in B2. So this is a team who I'm not gonna say he's not supposed to be here, but they're clicking at the right time.
No, I think if you were to hedge all bets, I mean, they took out one of the best teams in Western New York for small schools, and that's Newport. Unbelievable what they did, and what we would say is one of the top point guards they beat in Western New York. This is a true team you got going on here. These guys just are a fun team to watch, and they've had a player that's really stepped up for them, that has really come on within the last little bit this season. And that's Davion White for this team. He's been the kid that's gone down low, being able to get into the blocks, get all those offensive rebounds, get those defensive rebounds, really has been so key to the success of what we've seen from Fredonia as of late. You already know you're going to get some great point guard play with Ethan Fry. This kid is also, we know him on the football field. This was a kid who did phenomenal in the football season and led them to the sectional championships. Now he's taking his basketball team and led them to a sectional championship. He could shoot from the outside. He can go down low. He will be all over the floor doing things. Mike Hahn will be your shooter that you'll see shoot from 3-point land. And then they've got Keegan Whitfield that you'll see be able to come in and be able to do some things for the team also. This team really is a team that I can say is it's fun because it's a true team doing it together.
I'm looking at their last 4 games, a 3-point win, 1-point win, 4-point win, 3-point win. And usually this time of year, teams who are excelling in those tight-knit games are senior-laden groups. But this team has a bunch of young guys who are out there contributing in big roles. Just speak on that sectional run that they went on and how tight the games were.
So I agree with you, but remember that point guard is the senior, right? And he's the one really helping lead the way that's out there. And that's why I'm telling you, a guy like Davion White has come on strong as of late. He's a great example of exactly what we've seen. They've actually, if you look at it, they took down 2 number 1 seeds, right? Because we have the B1 and the B2 in this side. So they actually take down Salamanca, who's been one of the top small schools all along, and somebody they lost to, or they split during the season on. And you've got Lewiston Porter, who was the other #1 seed that was out there. So you can just see this is a team that really just seemed to come together at the right time and are on a 6-game win streak right now.
Yeah, and then heading back over to the girls' side of things, we're going over to Class C. This game at 3 o'clock there at Buffalo State University. You've got 7th-ranked Pavilion taking on #2 Randolph, a Randolph team that started the season with 3 losses. They have gone 19-1 since, and 2 of those losses have been to private school teams, or excuse me, 3 of them have been to private schools team. The other one to Panama, the Class D champion. So a team that has not tripped up very often, not very recently. And Tom, they are led by an 8th grader, Skylar Harrington. What has she brought to the table this season?
I mean, just look at scoring. I mean, that's really what you're talking about. You know, an 8th grader that could go out there and score, and you're challenging this 8th grader to get better and better. Kyra Pence, though, you got to see as a senior who also you have to watch out for. She was actually named the MVP during the sectional playoffs that were out there. But this Randolph team, I love because they have challenged this team over and over and over again. And they are literally ready to make a run. And there were so many people in the semifinal game that couldn't believe how good this Randolph team looked, where they were saying they thought they could match up with any team in Western New York in the semifinal game. They thought they were that good.
Now, on the Pavilion side of thing, you've got their dangerous duo, Carly Zinkovich, a guard. She's averaging 18 points per game. And then a thing that you don't see a lot, at least in Class C, you've got Lauren Kingsley, a 6'2" forward, averaging 18 points per game. She's going to Division II Gannon. Not often you get that kind of size with some skill down in Class C. How do you think Randolph is going to stack up with a talent like that?
Listen, like you said when you started this off with Randolph, they went against some of the top Catholic teams in the area. They also challenged themselves from the perspective of the early on games against some of the top teams outside of their conference. They're battle tested. This should really be a great one. This should be one everyone is circling right there on the calendar right there to watch.
Yeah, Randolph, one of 2 teams out in the Section 6 area, on the girls' side at least, that are ranked #2 in the state. So that is that'll be a tough matchup for Pavilion. We will see if they can get it done, Carl.
Yeah, and Randolph is actually also the boys' side. Made it to the Far West Regionals as well. They're taking on the winner of Lyons and Pembroke. That game will be played, I believe, tonight, AJ, as we record this on March 9th. So
correct.
So they don't know who they're going to play. So I don't know who really gets the advantage or disadvantage in that regard in terms of film. I don't know. But that's a topic for another day. Having said that, Randolph is a very strong team at 5th in the state, and they took care of business in the sectional run, a bunch of blowouts. How strong is this Randolph ball club?
You know what? This may be the only team I can say in Western New York right now that's leaving the area that truly has the guard and the bigs out there combined together on a team. When you look at Jaden Huntington will be your big that you're going to see leading the way at 13.2 points. And then you're going to see the guard play of both Carson Conley and Drew Hine. Drew Hine can shoot from anywhere out there, but you've got that combo and that old typical team where you can go down low and win, or you could do it with guard play. This is one of the true teams that can say they can do this that's coming out of Western New York.
They do have a common opponent here in Section 5. They lost to York, who I saw last Saturday, another solid foe at the sectional finals. But 6'4" in Class C ain't nothing to mess with. I mean, I know like size comes in every classification, but a 6'4" guy of that stature, Jaden Huntington, this inside-out game. Not going to say any winners that we have from Section 5 here, but I know Lyons has a really good, talented kid who's a taller kid at J.C. Walker, who I believe stands around 6'5", 6'6". But has Huntington gone up against guys of similar stature that he's been able to, hold his own against?
Well, let me give you a great example of what he did, right? So he's a football player that plays tight end, wide receiver that goes out there, right? So that gives you an example. He's going to bang with the best of them, right? If he can do it there, he's going to do it on the basketball court, and he's done that. And you can see but when you see three guys averaging between 13 and 16 points a game, that's showing you that it just turns on and off depending on what needs to happen or where the strength really is for you to be able to win a ball game.
And then finally, we move down to Class D, the final classification. And just by doing research on these Section 6 teams, on paper, it seems like we might be about to talk about the best team in its class for Section 6 in Panama. The number 2 team ranked in the state. They have won 5 of the last 9 sectional championships. They have beaten Class B powerhouses. As we mentioned, they beat Randolph in Class C. Just kind of take me through this Panama team. They're coming in on a 14-game winning streak. First off, am I accurate in my assessment that this might be the best pound for pound that Buffalo has to offer this weekend?
I think Randolph's another one. Depew is another one, right? I think Depew, Randolph, Panama are all right in there as teams that you're going to be able to discuss as pound for pound really strong teams to be able to go on to face all the far teams of the Far West Regional. This team, Mandy Brink, no doubt is led by that's where you're going to begin and talk about Panama. She was also named the MVP during the sectional finals out there. This is when you just look at the schedule, though. Now, remember they open up the year, lose to Southwestern, which was a B team that was in the crossover finals that we were just talking about here. Close game with Randolph that you talk about in here. Lose to Jamestown, a double-A team. But look at that, a D even putting a double-A team on their schedule. I mean, how many times have you heard that? And it just is a real fun to watch this division because Clymer, Sherman, right, are 2 other teams that were inside this division that they're all competing against. When you look at, when we go to another sport, we've talked about football a lot of times, CSP is a team that comes out football-wise. That's Clymer, Sherman, and Panama. All these teams broken out in this division that they're going out and playing against each other when we talk about a basketball front. So a lot of these people are in the bleachers together, rooting on their teams together, and now they have to go separate and play each other in other sports.
Yeah, like you said, led by Mandy Brink, over 23 points per game on the season. What does she do to make her so dangerous? And how do you think, especially like you mentioned, their schedule, she's seen, peak talent there out in Western New York. How has she kind of taken over and led her team here to the Far West Regionals this season?
Any guard that you could talk about that could penetrate into the paint and get to the glass and shoot from the outside, that's your key. Because what's going to happen is hopefully one side of that game is going to open up the other side, right? If you're going to penetrate early in a game, what's eventually going to do? It's going to open up the 3 points because I got to give you that step or that extra step and a half so that you don't go. Or I'm going to shoot the 3 on you early. You're going to try coming up close. I got the quick step that's going to go by you. That is a great way to explain what Mandy Brink is capable of doing from a guard standpoint.
And they will be taking on a Keshequa team who has only lost similar in stature to Panama, only lost to teams above them in classification. They have run over Class D teams. So that'll be a really good matchup there over Buffalo State University. That game is a 1 o'clock tip-off.
Panama clearly has a strong basketball program because the boys made it too. They'll be taking on Avoca Prattsburgh, the top-ranked team in the state. Rush-Henrietta at 5:30 this upcoming Saturday. Look, Mr. Prince, I'm going to just be real with you. Avoca Prattsburgh is really darn good. What does Panama bring to the table to have a chance in this ball game? Because Avoca Prattsburgh, as you're well aware, defending state champs and all that good stuff. Panama, balanced ball club, 4 guys in between 8 and 19 points a game. But what do they bring to the table?
Like you said, balanced scoring. I think the best way to explain kind of the balanced scoring was a game earlier this year that they had with Westfield. It was actually January 4th. They took on Westfield and won 62-61. And you can see right now that Carter Brink is their guy, right? Scoring 19 points a game. Well, they knew that everybody was going to focus on him. The last play gets set up with two guys going down the wings, right? And they get the ball to Bryce Hinsdale, and Hinsdale shoots the three and gets the win, and they walk out of the stadium with a win. That's just showing you is true team, that they're not going to rely on one guy to get them there, that it will be a true team atmosphere that they're going to try to go ahead and beat you with, that it could come from their top five anywhere on the court. And they're hoping that they may get a mismatch somewhere in that top five that they can take advantage of.
And you want to talk about team. They have one upperclassman on this ball club, one senior and one junior. This time of year, I mean, I know I preach about it and harp on like, you know, how much experience matters this time of year. You've been there before, you know what it takes, all that good stuff. But clearly this team isn't fazed by any of that stuff. They've punched up against teams who, you know, probably a little bigger, faster, stronger, and all that good stuff, and they found a way to get here. I mean, has that been like a sticking point all year with how young this team is?
No, because a lot of these guys already have 2-3 years experience that are even young. Great example is Bryce Hinsdale, the kid I just brought up, right? He's already been first team All-State for football, right? He's already lived it, done it. His brother's already graduated, playing for Washington and Jefferson right now there. Alex Barmore, his older brother, is the tight end that plays for Mercyhurst right now that's out there. These guys have seen it, been on the stage, and if they haven't done it themselves, they've experienced it through older brothers that are out there. Gabe Roth, another one who's a huge leader on this team, can do it in multiple sports: football, baseball, basketball. These guys have seen it and done it for multiple years. They've been doing this since they were, in some instances, from 8th grade on.
Yeah, Avoca Prattsburgh, the only Section 5 team to win over at Buff State last year. It was a different story on the girls' side. Only one Section 6 team won. We appreciate you coming on, Tom. Before we let you go, is there just kind of one overall thing you're kind of really looking forward to this weekend? Either games you're covering or games that you'll be following the box scores off in Buffalo? Just kind of one major thing you're really looking forward to this weekend.
I wouldn't say there's one major thing. You know, the big thing I would say that I've seen so far in Western New York this year that may be a difference from anything we've seen in the past is we didn't really have the bigs like we've ever seen before, right? Those 6'8", those 6'7" players, those ones that would dominate in the paint. We've really seen guard play be the biggest things and the biggest differences so far this season. So if they're going to go against some of the teams in the Far West Regionals from Section 6 standpoint, will they be able to overcome not having some of the bigs? And how will they be able to do defensively if they need to match up against that?
Should be a great couple of matchups to watch. I think we'll be in for some treats this weekend. Once again, we thank Tom Prince of WNY Athletics for coming on the show. If you are going to be purchasing the NFHS subscription, you'll be hearing him and seeing him all throughout the weekend. So you can see him there. You can follow him on Twitter at WNY Tom Prince. Tom, we thank you very much for sharing your insights. A lot of great information. Thank you very much for coming on our podcast today.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much for having me.
And once again, we just want to thank Tom for coming on to our program. And ever since Mary Margaret Johnson left our sister station at WIVB, she's out there at Damon doing some great things with the D2 program there. I know she's on a little tournament run of herself. We kind of got, worried a little bit about who we'd bring on if they could provide the same sort of insight and analysis that she did for us in the last year. The WNY Athletics guys really delivered, especially Tom today here, Carl.
They know what they're talking about, man. He's talking about they knowing the kids' grades, what school they went, elementary school. They know. I mean, he's just phenomenal, and he's also personable. Like we talked a little bit off air, a little bit. He's a very fun guy to talk to. Add some little flavors to the conversation. I hope you guys at home enjoyed that just as much as we did, because not only did I learn a lot about the Section 6 teams, I was entertained learning about them as well.
Yeah, we got into a little bit of Jimmy B talk before we started rolling there. If you haven't heard, Jim Boeheim not there anymore at Syracuse. We can't even say retired because nobody's really said that he's retired. Do you know what I thought about this the other day? How funny would it be if he went and coached somewhere else? How funny, like just on a scale of like 0 to 10 in just comedy factor, that would be off the charts, Carl.
No, that's top 5 moments. Like, forget collegiate sports. Like, that's just sports. Like, I can't even think of like a rival going against like another rival team. But for someone to be there their entire adult life, my man went to school there, G8, and then coached there, and then say, you know what? At 79, I'm gonna go somewhere else. That would be hilarious, considering they didn't give him the send off that maybe he preferred. That would be top 5 for sure.
And obviously, I don't think it's going to happen for like 20 different reasons. But if there is any 79-year-old guy or whatever it is who would do that, it would be Jim Boeheim. I'm honestly rooting for it. I think it would be like, what if he just went to like some like he went to the Mountain West or something, or if he went to like D2 or something like that. I would just love it. That would be great.
Imagine him at some D2 down in Florida so he can golf all year round. I can see it. I'm rooting for him. I'm all here for the drama. What's up?
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye out for that. We also have some one more hockey team left in the state tournament. Pittsford, they won with a 4-2 quarterfinal victory. They are on to the state semis. They're going to take on West Genesee. That game's going to be at the Harbor Center. I will be out there as long as I can find parking, because the Sabres play at basically just about the same time. So that's going to be an interesting wrench into my weekend. But the Panthers moved on. The Schroeder Warriors suffered a shutout loss. So we've got Pittsford moving on. We also had some state champions in swimming and track and field this past weekend. I believe we have the bowling coming up. So our winter sports season is coming to a close, but the fun just keeps on rolling with the basketball this weekend. It's a great weekend. And as we kind of talked a little bit on the interview there with Tom last year, we talk about Buffalo versus Rochester. Girls dominated from Rochester. The boys were king from Buffalo. I think it'll be really fun to see if that continues this year or what we get, because we've had a lot of, on paper with what we talked about this season, it could be the same, but, that's why they play the games, Carl.
That's exactly why they play the games. There's a lot of teams that made it to the places they made it where I'm like, I get y'all to go there. But nonetheless, like you said, on paper, a lot of good matchups, a lot of fun matchups. And I will be ecstatic to see from Section 5 region, the teams that we've thought have been good all year long, could they advance to the state tournament? That'll be really cool to see.
So we will have all that for you on Saturday with our final edition of Round Ball Roundup. Maybe we'll get one more if we have 10 teams make it to the state tournament. But what should be our final Round Ball Roundup of the season on Saturday. You can catch that on News 8. You can catch that on RochesterFirst.com. You can catch the podcast here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, of course, RochesterFirst.com, and on YouTube. We should be back next week for the state tournament preview. I can't quite guarantee it because AJ's got a little vacation time coming up for some special stuff. You can probably follow me on Twitter and Instagram. We'll talk about that because I'm going to Arizona. I'm going to see Taylor Swift, believe it or not. I hit the lottery. I hit the jackpot in all senses of the word. And so that'll be fun. I got that going on next week.
Look, vacation, I'm all for it. Arizona, beautiful T Swift. And I'm stuck here in the snow. Go have fun.
Yeah.
Go have fun.
The weather has started coming up in the 10-day, and I could not be more thrilled with what I'm getting, because I'm just seeing sunshine graphics, and I'm just seeing numbers with 7s and 8s. So it's a great time to go to the desert, and I'm going to be looking forward to it. But we will be back soon, probably next week. I think we should be getting in a show next week, but I just don't want to get people a little too confused when I'm having a great time and you guys can't listen to the podcast. But we will see you next time. For Carl Jones, I am AJ Fellman. It is now time to break the huddle, and we will see you next time.